Hey y'all, Sunday driving up to see my daughter. Haven't talked much in a while. Just needed a pause, and probably more of a pause. So just coming on here, coming up for air. What's been on my mind lately is everything and nothing. But let's see how I can lay this out. More the same. I think if you have an offspring with something like tuberous sclerosis complex, a rare disease, or some kind of medical diagnosis, really observe what is going on in terms of how the system creates a narrative where your kid is basically a data mill and an experiment for the rest of us. And there are many groups where this is true. I'm just talking about this one because that's my area of lived experience, where they're getting an overriding diagnosis very early on in life. And as I've proved and laid out in my 10 episodes of TSC Talks 3.0 research, these diseases are being juiced and exacerbated by environmental factors, including the vaccines, that make them more complicated and create what I would say is create a brain that is just completely not able to self-regulate and in a way that you would if you didn't have the diagnosis, if you weren't on 65 medicines, if you didn't have to go see A, B, C, D specialists that are, in different areas, or even if they're the same, they're in the same area, the specialists are focused on a particular organ of the body. An organ of the body, not the whole body and how it all works together. So over time, you start to see, well, okay, for this stomach issue, my offspring some years back was having some stomach issues. Well, let me tell you, I can't tell you how many tests that kid had to have. Because of her TSC diagnosis, there's other variables that might have been present, like there might have been tumors or manifestations of TSC. So they put her through all this stuff, couldn't find anything conclusive, threw a bunch more meds at it. It's stuff like that, over and over and over, as well as the trauma, the medical trauma, very early on that these kids experience, that jacks the family too. So it's this interplay of trauma going on at the same time. It's a rare disease diagnosis, all the separate organs and their medications, and at the end of the day, you've got a little churning out data points, and you're going to be steered to keep in that system and keep looking for something that you're never going to find. And now we know that the cure is going to be a CRISPR gene editing overwrite. And it just seems so dishonest. If you can take a few step backs and look at it, and these professionals in these areas, they really, I believe a lot, really genuinely want to help. They probably went to medical school with the idea that they're going to help and whatnot, and they got ground into the system, and they have to do it this way to keep their jobs, and they can't, look at the whole mind, body, spirit, and how it's all influencing us all the time. Just to get some leeway on trauma and the impact of that on someone with a rare disease, it's really hard. My offspring have been diagnosed with various mental health, DSM, is it 5 now? 3, 4, 5, I don't know. Labeling them with extra mental health diagnoses on top of what they already have. And when you get a diagnosis, a mental health diagnosis, for many people initially, early on, it's a relief because then they can, it's like a roadmap. Okay, I have this, I can do this, and it can be helpful in certain capacities to understand behaviors and medicate. It's a big one. So medicate you right into the system, zombie robot. Don't think for yourself. Don't step outside the gates of what your doctor says or what you're told. Biggie is don't think for yourself. Don't do your own research, and just follow the program, and your offspring will be okay. Well, what is okay? That's the other question. We're talking about people that can't really be completely independent. even if they can be, they're still dependent on like 65 medicines. So creating, a real synthetic human, and using the diagnosis of these rare diseases to test out various options and procedures because of the desperation. Okay, you're so desperate. These people, they have just such a tough trajectory. Let's let them have access to this new technology first, so they need it. So it's like I don't know what you call it, like a last minute curtain call. Let them take it, and we'll see how that works for the rest of the population. Yeah, and this has been with the Epstein files and the satanic ritual abuse and all that went into understanding consciousness, which is so brutal and ugly when you see what they have done to young children to get access to their consciousness, to try to understand how it works. Because nobody in that, it's like there's this disconnected concept that you could actually go within yourself and do some reflection and awareness and figure anything out. And truly, by the time your offspring is in their teens or in their young adulthood, it's almost impossible, because there's so many variables that are impacting them with meds and other regimens, and then diet becomes really important, and they're jacked because they're on meds that affect their appetite, and they can't self-regulate. So they've got to go into the system to regulate in any way. So once you start seeing it, it's hard to unsee it. And you're, like me, in a perpetual state of grief and anger and fury that they're being used in this way, and it's being sold as something that's like, this is the only way to do it, and this is the only way out, and you've got to do this. So I'm just talking it through. Like I said, that the impact of trauma too on our neural pathways and everything is, well, it's coming out in the mainstream science, even how much we are impacted. So you could say these things, like if you're doing a query, a AI query, you can get information where it will admit a lot of what I just said. But very few people are going to go do that and try to push back against the AI, and when there's other resources out there that they're drawing from that might not be necessarily mainstream, because the whole large language learning model is programmed in the system. So, but you can get a lot of information that way that might infuriate you and make you want to forget that you knew it. So, not to be like Debbie Downer, it's kind of like dealing with, everybody's just a freaking narcissist. They don't want to they're on some like runaway train that's going in its own direction, and they're not going to listen to reason. It's like this refusal to critically think and listen to reason. Look at all the evidence in the field and then pull from it. And even the precision medicine narrative is pulling from the mainstream science and whatnot. So it's apt. It's fooked. And I'm just here to bear witness to it, because I don't know what's going to happen long term, but I certainly am not going to continue to lie about it, because that's what it is. It's a fucking lie. It's weird. Whoopsie. It's a effing lie. When you know there's other information and you deliberately create a narrative where that has to be excluded to perpetuate your narrative, that's a lie. And it's not critical thinking. So, buckle up, Buttercup.